Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to All Souls on this gorgeous late summer morning. I'm sure you've noticed by now this is not quite the usual setup. I wonder if something special is going on. So welcome to the kickoff of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church's 150th anniversary year. To the best of our knowledge, All Souls was founded on or around June 2nd, 1968, by 9 people who were dated... 1868, sorry. Wow. Okay, that'd be a much different anniversary. 1868. Y'all are good with figures. 1868 by 9 people who were dedicated to the Unitarian religion. It was at a different location, but 150 years later, here we are. Much more than 9 people. Yay. Now, you may be wondering, okay, it's September 2017. Isn't it a little early? Well, you know, we thought 150 years, you need an anniversary year. So we are going to be celebrating all year long up to the official 150th anniversary date. So, for those of you who are still arriving, there are seats around. There are a few tables that have a reserved spot for folks in the choir, so they have a spot to come down and join us after they're done singing. But please find a seat. Let's see. We will be eating in a little bit, but we'll have an orderly process that we'll explain at that point so we don't have a mad rush to the fabulous food. Let's see. I'd like to thank all those involved in the planning of today and throughout the 150th anniversary. Today, particularly, Diane and Sharon Cassidy, our fabulous, fabulous cooks. Demeters helped decorate Bragg. All those who helped bake cupcakes, some of which are up here. Everyone who donated or loaned a t-shirt that you see on the walls. Of course, all of the members of the 150th Anniversary Committee. And all the volunteers who are helping make this event possible today. Now, some of the standard safety announcements. In case of an emergency, we do have 2 emergency exits up here on the stage. There are also, just like on an airplane, there may be exits behind you. Let's see, and I think that's kind of the usual stuff. So, again, one thing that we do like to do as a tradition, even after 150 years, is we like to acknowledge and welcome any visitors or guests. So are there any members who have brought a visitor or guest with them today? Okay, if you could stand and introduce yourself. Well, welcome. All right. Any visitors or guests who feel brave and want to follow their example and stand up and introduce yourselves? That's okay. Addie. Oh.
She's visiting today, and she's a friend of Roma Lee.
Welcome. Welcome. All right, and Don in the back. All right, welcome. Welcome. All right, so, All right, welcome. All right. So a lot of times when we have Sunday Plus dinners as a fundraiser, we tell the guests that you're welcome to be our guest. But today, everybody gets to be our guest for a wonderful meal. So it's a great way to kick off the 150th year. So again, welcome. We are so glad that you are here as part of this celebration.
Hello, my name is Rosie, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
All right, and if you'll join with me in the words of our covenant. Stand if you're able to with all the different seating. Goodwill is the spirit of the church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Drinkwine, Board President, and I have the distinct honor of welcoming Kendall Gibbons back to the pulpit. Nobody is more excited to have Kendall Gibbons back than me. The sabbatical team has done an amazing job. We've had some great guest ministers, but I don't know about you. I have missed all the whole week of rumination following the readings and the sermons. I have so enjoyed, and I'm so glad to have Kendall back. And the whole energy changes when Kendall's back in the building, in the committee meetings. So help me to welcome her back.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Yeah, right. There's always something about re-entry, right? Margaret, thank you. And thank you, everyone. It is such a wonderful welcome, and it's so great to be back. And what a fabulous way to begin the new program year and to kick off our next 150 years of liberal religious presence here in Kansas City. You know, birthdays can be a two-edged sword. When we were little, most of us were so eager to grow up. I'm almost 10, we would say to anyone who asked, always looking forward to that next number year with growth and its expanding privileges. Then at some point you start realizing, you know, by the time he was my age, Mozart was not only famous, he was dead. What have I been accomplishing? And if you let them, the years become a kind of indictment. But what a birthday really is a time to take stock, to look backward and forward and around to see where and who we are now. So throughout this anniversary year, our community is going to be doing all three of those things. We are going to remember the past, we're going to celebrate the moment, and we are going to prepare for a meaningful future. We're going to remember the past for two reasons. One, because we owe a debt of gratitude to the people whose work and love built this place for us. As the Hebrew scriptures remind us, we drink from wells we did not dig and eat from vines we did not plant. All Souls was here for us to find because folks we never got to meet knew that this community would be needed and made sure that it would be here. That's a legacy we should appreciate. We are also going to acknowledge that not all of our past is comfortable to think about. We have been part of this country and this city's culture of supremacy and privilege. We have not always lived up to our covenant and our ideals. And it is only by recognizing those difficult chapters that we build integrity and mature as an institution. So we will remember together. We will also lift up the next century and a half of our life as a congregation. We will rededicate ourselves to building life-saving and radically welcoming community among our members, and to offer service, witness, and moral leadership to our neighbors here in Kansas City. We will make an effort to listen together to the cry for a contribution that is uniquely ours to make. The risk of generosity that none of us alone can manage, but that with each other's support can help bring beloved community to birth. And we will rejoice in the present moment, right here, right now, with these friends and these neighbors, with these problems and these gifts, complicated and compromised as they always are. We can be grateful for the past and hopeful for the future and still be grounded firmly in what is right now, in the sacred truth of both the love of this moment and the task at hand. Two things for the present during this year of transition and celebration. First, I want to introduce to you Jack Cady, our full-time intern minister for this year. Jack, you're out there. There he is. Yay. Jack is a recent graduate of United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and he comes to us with a particular interest in campus ministry. So please help make him welcome, and if you have any connections with the Art Institute across the street or with UMKC, help him to get connected with those institutions. I'm so happy to have Jack with us and for our congregation to be helping to shape the future of ministry in this movement. Second, I want to thank Suzanne Rainey as well as the rest of the 150th anniversary planning team for their work on this fabulous kickoff festivity, certainly, but more significantly for creating a year of memory and hope and celebration for All Souls. An important element of that plan is the year of service, and it will take all of us to pull this off. You can start next Saturday by helping to create a new butterfly garden over at Carver Dual Language Academy, the local elementary school that our congregation supports. You'll find more information about signing up for Christmas in October or for other projects throughout the year, Or you can quietly commit to bring a donation for Harvesters Food Bank every Sunday without fail. It would be wonderful if the office had to call for a pickup every week because the barrel was filled to overflowing. One of the themes that runs through our 150 years is service to others and trying to even the playing field for all our neighbors here in Kansas City. We want to make that even more prominent than ever during this auspicious birthday year. Think what we could accomplish if all our members, including you, made a thoughtful and generous contribution to our year of service. In keeping with this theme, as you see, we've decorated our party today with a display of social justice t-shirts around the walls of this space. Many thanks to Andrea Johnson for coordinating this collection and display, and thanks to all who donated or loaned their t-shirts. So much commitment over so many years is reflected in all these messages of hope and protest and determination. I can't think of a more fitting emblem for the legacy that we have inherited and the legacy that we intend to pass on to future generations. Now, if your nose is working anywhere near as well as mine, you're becoming eager for the delicious meal that we're about to share. So let's have a little music from the choir, and then we will call you up table by table to eat.
Free-thinking, multicultural, non-creedal, humanistic.
So, as the choir is taking seats, as planning for this event started, the 150th Anniversary Committee was hoping that 125 people would join us for the celebration. The number responding has been absolutely gratifying for the 150th Committee, and we're happy and proud that all of you are here. After Friday's email, there's over 200 people who RSVP'd. Oh, yay! So again, thanks to our wonderful cooks and volunteers and everyone who has helped with this. There should be enough food for everybody to have a mama bear sized serving the first time through the line. With the exception of the bread and butter, all the food we are serving today has been handmade with love by your fellow congregants. We have 2 serving tables in the lobby with the meat entree, 1 table with the vegetarian and vegan entree, and 1 table with the gluten-free entree. We will have people out in the lobby to help guide you in case you're confused as to which one might be which. We do ask for traffic control. You know, we have an aisle over here against this wall, and then there's an aisle over here coming up from the sound system coming up. We ask, as tables are dismissed, that you go out this side under the clock and come back in by the sound system, just so we don't have, herding cats with plates of pasta. So, to start, we'll have the first 3 tables head out, and then we will dismiss tables 1 or 2 at a time, so we don't end up with an entire log jam waiting to get served. Okay, for those of you who have young children, teenagers, or teenagers at heart, everybody has had a chance to have their first pass through the line, and thanks to our lovely cooks, there is still food left. So if you'd like to have a second round, here's your chance.
having fun yet? Yeah. Again, for the food. Thanks, Cassidy's, and everyone else too, and all these people running around doing all the extra work. It's time for the offertory. So, a line that always hits me is, to revere the past but trust the dawning future more. And here we are, revering the past in grand style. Happy birthday. But at the start of our 150th year, we stopped to not only revere the past, but look at what we've been and what we've done. And look in this room, you look at the T-shirts, you look at each other. We have a great present, and there is a glimmer of the dawn of the future out there that we are working towards, our vision. Our commitment to each other, to social justice, to the world and our community is so strong. So we would pass the basket now if there was any way for ushers to walk through you. So we're not going to pass the baskets. Instead, I'm going to ask for you to make a commitment now that on your way out, that you drop your offering in one of the baskets at the doors. There's going to be 3 or 4 baskets back there. So if you promise, I will put my offering in the basket as I leave, okay? Then I won't make the ushers come squeezing around you. So it's a win-win situation. So thank you all for coming today, and thank you for your generosity towards the church. Truly, we have a glorious future as we look forward, and a great year of remembering the past and celebrating our present. I think at this time we're going to go ahead and move towards reading or confirming our dedicating our offering anyway. So if you could put that slide up.
No.
No?
Okay.
Okay. It's dedicated.
All right, and as we near the end, you don't have to rise. Just turn so you can see whichever screen, either in the back of the auditorium or the front, and we'll join in singing "Let It Be a Dance."
I'm Jim Mitchell, and I'm happy to be here today. Actually, at my age, I'm happy to be anywhere. My daughter raises horses, a very unusual breed of horse. It's called a Unitarian Universalist Arabian. If you give it food, you can get it to do anything. I began attending this church 48 years ago when Ray Bragg was the minister, and I knew early on this was not going to be a run-of-the-mill journey. One of his early sermons was, "Who's Who in Billy Graham's Hell?" Well, I knew that hell of fame consisted of a lot of people like Mr. Lincoln, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Franklin, all kinds of luminaries. Then he was replaced by Rich Meyer, who was here for a year, and then Don Vaughn came for 4 years. And then I think Judith Walker Riggs was our first woman minister, and a powerhouse preacher she was. She made an unusual statement early on, a dietary restriction that she had. She said, "It's very important for you to realize that I'm allergic to nuts." Now ponder that for a moment. If you minister at All Souls Unitarian Church in Kansas City and you're allergic to nuts, you have an industrial strength size allergy. One morning while she was our minister, I was up right in this spot trying to raise money, panhandling as usual. And while I was talking, a man came up the aisle, high-top boots on, looked like a forest ranger, and I didn't know what he was about. He walked up, came right up to me, and he said, "Could I say a word?" Well, what do you say to a man in uniform? He said, "I'm going from New York City back to home in Oregon, and I stopped on my way in Kansas City because I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and I wanted to be with you." He said, "I am so impressed with what you're raising money for this morning. I'm going to give you a $100 bill." Well, I didn't want to act rude, so I took it. And that started a policy in this church. We do not consider it bad behavior for you to disrupt a service if it includes a $100 bill. Because we accept all denominations, 50s, 100s. You people are so easy. One Sunday morning, most of the things that I remember aren't worth remembering, but they're kind of funny, and at the end I'll share with you a couple more poignant points. But one morning, Vern Barnett spoke. He had been a minister at Shawnee Mission, and he asked that the person introducing him to the audience not introduce him until you're ready for him to come from the lobby. He stayed out in the lobby until he was to speak. When the moderator said, "Now I present to you Vern Barnett," we heard a motor start, and up the aisle came Vern Barnett on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Up the aisle and up the ramp and over here, and kicked down and started preaching on the subject, Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. I have no idea what he said that morning, but I remember the introduction very well. Back in the sinful 70s, a cultural phenomenon took place in our country called streaking. As you remember, those of you who are old enough to remember, it's young people at a public gathering who, for reasons known only to themselves, disrobe and start interrupting the proceedings. Well, one morning, while Don Vaughn was standing where I'm standing, that door opened, and across the stage came a young man a cappella, as in no clothes. He ran out this door, and what should the congregation do to such a disgraceful act? We gave him an ovation. And my facts may be wrong, but I don't think they are. The person who led the ovation was Ginger Powers. Ginger, don't ever quit coming or I'll run out of jokes. We used to have some interesting things in this church, and some of you remember Bill Andrews, our custodian, a terrific guy. And while he was the custodian, the hotel over on the main street opened a nightclub, and it became very popular, so much so that the parking was spilling over into our parking lot. So Bill decided to do duty one night, and he stood out in front to make sure only people coming to church were going to be allowed to park here. He had not been there very long when a young whippersnapper wheeled in here in a sports car, Johnson County license. People in Missouri couldn't have afforded it. I'll give you a chance now. He pulled up into the parking lot and started to get out, and Bill said, "Young man, clarification here. This parking lot is only for people coming to a church event." And not skipping a beat, the young man said, "I'm coming to a church event." Bill said, "What were you coming to?" He said, "Bible study." Bill said, "Get out of here, you're an imposter." We used to have some interesting forums. I can remember when Senator Stuart Symington spoke in this place at the forum, Senator John Danforth, Senator Thomas Eagleton, and a lot of luminaries, and a lot was happening. On one particular Sunday, I told this story before, but I never told the follow-up sequel. We had a speaker from St. Paul's School of Theology who had a reputation for being a flaming liberal. Well, that morning, we had a protester with a picket sign out in front protesting a church that would allow a left-wing commie to come in and speak on Sunday morning. Well, one of the members of our church went out and chatted with the man and said, "We have a service following the forum, so if you come in, you can join me. I'd like to have you sit with me." Sure enough, he did. He came in, put his picket sign in the coat rack, and went with our member and sat down. This has delicious irony in it. That member of our church was Jim Robinson, African American. But there's a sequel to the story. The man went to the Baptist church over on Swope Parkway and was picketing them, and they didn't invite him to the service. They invited him to an altercation. He got in a fight with one of their members and punched the man in the nose, and for that offense was sentenced to a few weeks in the county farm in Leeds. Our speaker at the forum got word of it and went out to visit him and said, "You know, you feel very passionate about your ideas as I feel about mine. Why don't we decide that there are some places where we can work together?" Now, I should say that the speaker in the forum had been getting regular calls from an anonymous source threatening his life, which he reported to the FBI. After he went out and visited that man in the jail, the calls stopped. I don't know how many of you visited the Serenity Garden that we have here in the Simpson House. You should. This is a wonderful setting with the work of Chuck. Give me his name, Chuck. Thank you, up here. We got that Simpson House when we had no minister. To show you something of the resilience of this congregation, we were without ministerial leadership, and the Simpson family, who had been very cordial to us, gave us the first shot at it. That meant that we had to hurriedly get the money together to buy that property. Thanks to Ed Powers and his wife and a lot of people. See, I'm not just making fun of you. I'm also bragging on you. Lowell Smithson, a lot of people put this thing together, and in one weekend, we got the pledges for it. See, I don't pick on her all the time, but that shows you that some leadership in this church led us to where we are today. Most of what I've said is a lot of levity, but I've saved this last story because I'm not sure that I can do it justice. As you know, those of you who have attended our church a long time, we've changed the manner in which we light the chalice. We used to light it having a person to celebrate a certain event or announce some important something that was coming up, and we lit the chalice in honor of that. On this particular morning, the chalice was lit by a young member of the choir. He gave a riveting chalice lighting when he said, "I am lighting the chalice to call for your help." He said, "I have been diagnosed with AIDS." And at that time, folks, that was a sentence of death. He said, "I'm asking you to encourage me and support me as I face this greatest challenge of my life." It was a riveting moment in our church's life. 10 months later, he lit the chalice again. It was obvious that the disease was working on him. He made reference to that earlier day when he had lit the chalice. He said, "I came back to tell you I have never in my life been so overwhelmed by the response of a congregation." He said, "I've never felt more loved and more encouraged and more feeling that I could make it." He said, "In fact, if I had to make a decision between what I have received from this congregation and it meant that I had to have AIDS, I can handle the AIDS." A few months later, it was my privilege to conduct his memorial service. I can point to a lot of little incidents that have happened in this church, but I'll tell you what stands out to me as a member, having been here 48 years, is the number of beautiful people who have touched my life in this congregation. I can think of no place where I could have been where I would have been more inspired and more enriched than in a fellowship with people, many of whom are no longer with us, and their spouses are here today. One thing that I've heard through the years is people coming to our church have said, "I felt like when I came to All Souls, I was coming home." Let me share with you one very brief story, and then I'll finish. The second Sunday that I attended this church, a man approached me in the lobby, a man by the name of Dewey Minor. Does anybody remember Dewey Minor? A few do. We chatted for a while, and he welcomed me to the church, and then in the pleasantries that we were handing back and forth, he said, "Jim, are you a native of Kansas City?" I said, "No, Dewey, I grew up in Indiana." He said, "Well, I went to college in Indiana." He said, "My roommate at Purdue was a young man of German descent by the name of Lahr, L-A-H-R. I said, "My mother is a Lahr." He said, he came from Huntington, Indiana. I said, "I'm from Huntington, Indiana." Ladies and gentlemen, you can call this synchronicity. You can call it nothing, whatever you want. I take it as destiny's way of telling me, "Jim, you have come home." And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Jim. And thanks to everyone for being part of our anniversary celebration kickoff. Now, just in case you might be one of those visitors who happened to wander in today, thanks for joining our party, and be assured that we will be back to a somewhat more regular program next Sunday when we will have our normal fall in-gathering service. So everybody remember next week to bring the water that you've saved from the summer, and please get one of these forms. They're out in the lobby, and fill it out and turn it in when you get to church next week so that we can recognize your contribution up on the screen when we do our water sharing ritual. And you can also find them on the website. If you want to go home and download it, that'll work too. Don't forget to sign up to do your part for our special year of service And especially if you like gardening, come next Saturday to Carver and help us do the butterfly garden. Now, you can't have a true birthday party without candles. So everybody please find the candles and holders at your table and make sure that you all have one. And I'd like to invite the members of the board to come up and be our helpers. Bring your candle with you, and they will pass among the tables and get you started at the table. We're going to do this kind of like Christmas Eve. So remember that you always hold the lit candle, actually, let's do this down here, upright. Okay. So you hold the lit candle still and you tilt the unlit candle into light like that. Okay? Everybody got that? And when Anthony sees that we are ready for this, he will start us off and we will sing happy birthday to our church. Now we want everybody to make a big wish for the future of this congregation and then blow out your candle. Are you ready? Blow. You did it. All right. So now, of course, it's time for a birthday cake. And since we have always believed in the value of diversity, we don't just have one big one-flavor cake. Rather, a bunch of different volunteer bakers have made a bunch of different kinds of cupcakes. So come on up and enjoy the variety and uniqueness that makes this community so special. And we're going to, some trays will be passed around as well, I guess. So if you're close to the front, come up. Otherwise, the trays are coming from the back. One more thing. When we're done, let's begin our year of service right now by taking the salad bowls and the paper cups and the tablecloths and everything off the table and to the back of the room before we leave. Do you have?
And the bookmarks and stickers that are on the table are gifts. Please feel free to take them home with you.
Now, may we find our strength and hope in things which cannot fail, in the love of truth which faces every fact and welcomes new learning, in the community of fellowship which leaves no human being out, and in the ideals we share, which are close to the life of this earth and yet lead us onward and on forever. Happy birthday, and see you next week.